great powers of our world are struggling for dominance, battling for control of Agemonia. A conflict that has spread like wildfire. The sting of its poison lay heavy in the hearts of many, for the land has known no pain like this ever before. The most unlikely of us have risen as unsung heroes. Heroes that could sway the balance in our favor. They are the final hope for Agemonia. And their stories are just beginning.
Agemonia is a fully cooperative, narrative-driven adventure game for 1 to 4 players, using a quick, engaging, and completely original resource management system to carry out your actions. Your group will progress through a connected storyline that spans over 30 scenarios, with evolving maps, multiple unique objectives, puzzle elements, and a wealth of exploration that will ultimately lead you to one of the game's many possible endings. Players will progress through their heroes' personal stories while journeying through an even larger narrative. As you navigate Agemonia, you will choose your path and upgrade your abilities along the way, giving players strong agency over their own destiny. Choose to travel this unique world solo or with others and become the mightiest of unlikely heroes, or even the most despicable of villains, in this unforgettable adventure. Will you help save Agemonia? Secure your copy and find out.
So, Agemonia is easily the most ambitious non-digital game project in Finland ever. Here's the only existing physical copy in the world. It will be published in January, and there's a huge team of people behind it. And the leader of this team, the designer of Agemonia, is Max Wikström.
Hello, my name is Max Wikström. I'm the lead designer of Agemonia. It has been kind of a dream project of me for over 30 years, I think. When I started role-playing a long time ago, I think I had the big vision of wanting to create an own breathing world fantasy in some point. Of course, all this role-play history comes up in some point, and now in some point I think this was also a role-playing world first many years ago, but then in some point I understood that it's maybe impossible to compete with the D&D and the existing role-play games. And then there was coming this new genre of combining board games and role-playing games. And I kind of felt the same big awakening, like first time playing role-play, when I checked out Gloomhaven. Maybe somebody knows about the project, which really beautifully combines board game mechanics and role-play feeling into a big campaign that is taking players through a long chain of different types of scenarios, and then you have always middle time, and then you can continue exactly like in role play. But the best thing would be that nobody needs to be the game master. There is an artificial intelligence, let's say, cards that will kind of give that part of the game. The awakening with Gloomhaven was really, really strong, but I wanted to kind of maybe concentrate more to the story and puzzle elements than only fighting mechanics, which is, well, it's wonderful in Gloomhaven. I also wanted to have dice in the game, but I also have a long history. My main work has been in theater field. I'm a theater designer with set and lights. So I've been working with drama all my life, which is a good basis for a big story. I was really happy to to know beforehand Mike, who is an incredible writer, and we combined our forces like I think 6-7 years ago. And I asked Mike to first, I think, just to kind of, well, I have this kind of a big world. What could we do with it? I think we need some written stories in it. And we have, I wanted to also have in this, wanted to have pre-generated heroes that have a motive in the world. So then we started to talk with Mike, and I had these different ideas and some cultures and stuff. And then the big part started when we started to kind of create the backstories for the heroes. And I could give the ball to you now, Mike.
Sure. Yeah. My name is Mike Pohjola. I'm a writer and a game designer, and I've written a lot of stuff for Agemonia. I'm gonna step out of my spot for a minute. The massive box includes a lot of written text, and there's plenty more in this supplement book, which has background stories for every character and a lot of other written material and great illustrations. And one of the big things in this narrative board game is the depth of the setting and the depth of the characters. The world of Agemonia is a fantasy world with no elves, no dwarves, no humans, no hobbits, filled with completely unique creatures like this. There's a role-player characters. And I call the genre acid fantasy. I'm not sure how accurate it is, but it's
high fantasy.
The world is filled with like floating mountains and luminescent plants and talking animals and really strange stuff. Like, this is very different from Lord of the Rings or Game of Thrones. And the level of detail is, I think it's completely unnecessary to have this much detail in a world for a board game. This is the star chart for one of the cultures in the game. This presentation, we might be rambling on about some details like the star chart, but the focus of this presentation is, we hope...
This is the world map.
Sorry, this is the world map, sorry. Yeah. The focus of this presentation is creating a board game from idea to final physical product. First of all, Max, what is an idea for a board game? Can you define that somehow?
Yeah, I've designed a few board games beforehand, but this is, of course, I want to talk about this. This is different because, like I told, was first thought about to work in a role-play setting. But of course, the main motor is the mechanics of the game. So with this game, I was designing the motor and testing and throwing it away, building it again, like the game mechanics. The core of the mechanics is the most important thing. I wanted to have a dice mechanic, like I told you earlier, but I also wanted to cut the random out, which is, of course, a difficult task when you use a dice. But I have a stamina resource system, like every hero has a stamina pool, which is also their wound pool. So 2 of the 6-sided dice edges are giving you a possibility to use that stamina. So you can buy some successes in cases of those. So you can never say what happens. There is no empty sides on the dice, so you always know that you get something. There's also one side which is an explosion which gives you 1 success plus a new roll. So each role is meaningful. I was playing a lot of Zelda with my son, which I love when you kind of get tired when you climb up the wall and so on and so on. So I wanted to have something like this also in this board game. So like in a classical role play, you have lots of stats, you are using those. But in this one, you have just might, agility and will. And this is kind of packed together, all the classical attributes. And you are using those with shoveling, you are using those with climbing and saving against magic, or remembering something, or getting an idea how to read a language or open a rune code. I also wanted to have, like I told earlier, loads of puzzle elements. Well, like scenario design is, of course, that's the huge part of a game like this. So we have 36 different scenarios, and some of them have been built up like 11 different versions and loads of testing. I wanted to have always something which is like a puzzle element, and then the fighting and enemies and stuff like that is kind of a spice, or a block that you need to either you need to cleverly go around or somehow handle. So that's mainly the scenario build-up was really important.
Can I ask you something? Because I think we had been working on Agemonia for like 2 years before you came up with this stamina mechanic.
Yeah.
So that wasn't the idea for the board game, because we'd already been working on it.
Yeah, the idea of a board game, yes. The world, I mean the scenario-based board game. That's the connection between role play and the kind of Gloomhaven-based campaign.
So like having
so
this.
That's the idea. Like the feeling of people playing cooperative game around a table. Of course, that feeling is such a. I'm really happy with the test results now that we have kind of ended up with the feeling of role play, playing together, talking a lot, having good time, and then still kind of playing together against the game. So I think this was the aim for the game as a feeling for the player, how it should come out.
So that's like how it feels like to play it, or what the experience of playing it is, and then you have to figure out how you can use the mechanics to create that feeling.
Yeah. So that's of course the mechanism needed to be as fluid as possible, fast-paced, to get the feeling of that. That you don't have a downtime for the other players. Everybody is kind of taking part of each player's round. Still no alpha player things, because you are creating your hero. After each scenario, you are building up your hero again. So you have lots of varieties to build up your hero. Also, you choose a class during the process. In second level, you choose like let's say Venia is a Quothian, like a bird-headed girl, a gothic girl who's really cool, and she chooses to become either an assassin or a witch, which is kind of very different game mechanics and still the same hero. So each hero has two classes, which is taking them to very different mechanical routes. But of course the story is important. So each of our heroes, we designed a long story, like Mike has written like many pages story for each hero that you can read beforehand, that tells us the motives of the hero.
Okay, let's get the heroes in a while. Our next slide is actually the mechanics video.
Okay.
Which is
yeah, that's a very short. It's a very good way to kind of shortly introduce the game mechanics.
Yeah.
The vitality disc for the hero level shows how many stamina chips the hero begins with during each scenario. When all stamina chips are turned into wounds, the hero becomes wounded. Before a scenario begins, each player chooses action tokens for their hero. As the hero gains more levels, they also gain more action tokens to choose from, resulting in more places for the tokens.
So the basis of the game is that every player has a hero of their own, and if there's 100 hours of gameplay, you play that same hero all the time. Like in a role-playing game, you start with the hero on level 1, and then they gain more powers and equipment as the game progresses. We have 36 different scenarios, each with a different game board and different event cards for that game board. So there's a lot of stuff, lots of different things that can happen in each scenario, and depending on which heroes you have and which event cards you choose and what choices you make, the stories can be very different. And then between the scenarios, the heroes can spend time, first of all, getting to that scenario and drawing event cards for that, which can lead to these small mini quests, and they can use the downtime to progress in their own story. One character might be trying to solve the murder of their mother that she's been framed for, or find pieces of a magical object, or find a way to deal with the demon that's giving them advice, sometimes good advice, sometimes bad advice. Everybody has their own story, and that story progresses during the game. It starts before the game, and that's why we have the background stories that are available in the book, and that are also available online and as audiobooks. And then they progress and involve interesting choices between these scenarios.
Yeah, like the heroes, as you always in role play and things like that, you ask of why am I in this world and why am I with these guys that are around the table. So each of the heroes have such a strong own reason that they need some other people to help them to get solved. So that's every hero has their own story that they need the other ones to help, and of course then we have the big story. And one big thing that I think is quite unique with these types of games, that between scenarios, when we go to the city, we have loads of content that is not just reading text, it's very much game content. So we can end up into situations where we need to roll dice, and we need to make choices together. Like, are we pushing our resources to, and whatever. We can end up in a situation where we have three bad possibilities, and that can take us again to different places. We have 10 factions also in the game that we collect reputation, and we have like 5 pairs of factions. And if you get too famous with one faction, the other one will hate you and will lock up. So this is a very, very also important part of the game, that which factions will you go friendly with and which factions will be enemies for you, because this will affect many
Let's focus on the characters for a little bit. We have 7 characters in the box, and this is a 1 to 4 player game, so at least 3 heroes will be left out, so you have a lot of replayability at hand. Some of the characters are male, some of them are female. One of them is a rock person. One of them is non-gendered or agender. Some of them are from noble houses. Others are working class. Some of them are immigrants. I think there's a very wide variety of different types of creature here, obviously reflecting the human experience, but also reflecting the rock experience and a huge multitude of identities and stories.
And the rock guys are actually growing a crystal in their back, which is a very, very important energy source in the game, which is we want you to have a living creature that is carrying something really, really valuable in their backs. That's why they are hunted also.
Yeah, obviously there's massive powers in the world that are then want to harvest that energy from those guys. Each character has their own, we call it hero board, which is like a character sheet in a tabletop role-playing game, which includes, well, their image, and in the back a picture from their home country or wherever they're from. Then plenty of game mechanical stats, skills, stamina, stuff they can do.
Yeah, you choose the class, like I told you earlier, in some point of the game, and then you collect skills for that class each time you raise levels. And this is, of course, you are free to choose the skills, so that takes you into a very different builds in different game groups. Pyro Blade, Drenosh can be very, very different than in other one. And of course, the equipment and it's a flexible game board, so board, because you can build the items and all the stuff around it like you want, and you can save the game in a tray between sessions, which makes the setup much more quick.
And on the backside of the hero board is a more detailed image of their home country and very short synopsis of the background story, just giving you the basic beats of who this character is and why they're not enjoying life at their hometown, but are adventuring in Rundale in the Republic of Benin for some reason. This character is Drenosh, 8 songs from the Megaean Empire. They are an Ignisor, who are this sun-worshipping race of lizard people, and the Megaean Empire is one of the big powers in the world, conquering neighboring countries and cultures. Many people, like, they have many elements that in traditional fantasy might indicate that they're the bad guys. They're rumored to be cannibals and sacrifice slaves to their sun god and that kind of stuff. When developing the culture, I read about different kinds of lizards, and some lizards are born without gender or sex, and they only, after shedding their skin a couple of times, it's determined which sex they are, depending on what the pack needs. So inspired by that, the Ignisors are also born sexless, and on the time that they shed their skin for the 3rd time, then they have to choose in front of the sun god whether they want to be male and become a warrior or a merchant, or a woman and become a priestess or a politician. And when Drenosh reaches that stage of their life, they announce that they will choose neither. They will not be male or female.
And that's a huge scandal.
That's a scandal, and it means that they're seen as a child by the other adults, and they can't take up a powerful position in their noble family. And then when their family is betrayed and murdered, at the end of the backstory, Drenosh flees the Megaean Empire, swearing revenge and wanting to find out who killed their family. And that's the start of Drenosh's story in the game, which then progresses during the Agemonia campaign. And during the campaign, there's each character or the group of characters encounters lots of different obstacles and challenges and is forced to make a lot of choices. Some of them involve the scenarios. This is a scenario card on the left, and some of them are from the event cards. One of them is on the right. Each event card is drawn before a scenario when the characters are traveling to the quest location, and they always involve some kind of choice with 3 different outcomes and 3 different results for the characters.
Yeah, and these continue into the storybook, which can so each of these mini adventures can continue in quite many different choices. And like I told earlier, like with game mechanics that might cost you resources or wounds or things like that. The next piece is a process of a scenario design. Like this is one of the really early sketches. I was really
So Max, when you come up with an idea for a scenario, we have 36 scenarios. How do you know that you have a good idea, and what do you do first?
Well, of course, I had a big story, like the whole campaign structure I designed first. Then I had these different spots where I had some powers to be like interests, and then where are the places where the heroes need to be in some point. So when I have one scenario and I know that here we have a certain faction wants us to find something. So let's say like this could take like hours when I start to open this up. But then I don't have this sketch from myself first. So I had the first ideas like what kind of puzzle elements or stuff like that I wanted to have in this one. I had some earlier versions of this scenario beforehand, and then I ended up with having maybe you can show the next one.
Let's not go there yet. Before this, you don't start with this. Somebody else makes this. What do you make first?
Well, I do the design of the scenario.
How do you do that?
Well, like I have of course the motives are most important. Like the different factions, what they need, what the players are needed to reveal in this scenario. Then I start to create obstacles, of course, and these are game mechanics. Like we have this blade thicket in this one, which is really difficult to pass. So that makes one mechanism, and then I'm using time. Like my theater background gives the drama element with using time. So in the game we have a fate deck that gives time units. When each round we draw 1 at the end, and it gives us a 1 or 5, number from 1 to 5, which is time units. And there is usually you draw 3, but there is also some 2s and 4s and 1s and 5s. So there is a kind of a Gauss system with it. So I have many scenarios. I'm using this time as like when we draw 20, something happens, something big happens. So we need to. This is part of our cooperative planning when we do like, okay, in some point we don't know exactly when something is happening, but we need to maybe do something before that happens, or something is spawning somewhere, and we have some arrows that will indicate from the fate card also. So. Of course, I'm starting to create these environmental things around this because I know where this scenario is happening. And then what's the aim for the scenario, and then the obstacles. Like, I don't want to reveal all the things from here, but we have a puzzle element that the players need to kind of solve before the time ends up. But there is few things that will change this during the scenario. And let's say, of course, this also has 6 different endings, so the players can kind of take an easy route, or they can maybe make a new friend from somebody that might be like, because you can also become like villainous in this. There is lots of moral choices. You can end up with playing quite bad guys also. So the moral is thrown to the players, and we are just giving you decisions during the.
So you have all of these elements, and then like, I guess the cross is where the thing that they want to get. That's where it is, right?
Yeah, that's why I want you to show the next part, because that
Okay,
shows how the puzzle develops, and then of course these where we are aiming like that. That's the next version. And I think there was few versions before this one also. So then when you test and test and test, of course this kind of a game needs tons of testing. So I'm testing with different groups, getting little points, and also how the time flows during the scenario. And then like last version didn't have the puzzle element, and then I had the puzzle element added to this one, and then that's a new little add. So it develops in this beautiful combination of known elements, environment, and some motives, some big powers, and then it's just creation after testing. Lots of work, but then it kind of starts to find shape.
So you start with like a piece of paper and a pencil, and you give that sketch to Markku, who made these prototypes.
Yeah, I'm working really closely together with a Finnish guy, Markku Laine, and he has been doing a sketch, like at least 1 or 2 sketches for each of these scenarios. So I have been already working with this level of, but this is still a sketch. So this is how it develops, and then we can show the final piece. So this is Damien Mammoliti, like our great illustrator from California, and now this is the final piece, like how it develops.
So your original idea here was that they need to get to the tower and pick up something?
So there is a portal that has been opened accidentally. We don't know who has been doing it, but they had a little hint, the faction. So we are asked to go and investigate and close the portal, if possible. And then there is a huge red crystal that sucks power from players. And then in some point the crystal breaks and something happens. Well, and then you have different routes you can take, and you can first go to the crystal or first go to the portal. So we have been trying to not railroad the scenarios and the campaign. So you have lots of different possibilities how to. Like I told, there are 6 different endings in this scenario. So then we come to the big point of the game. So what I wanted to have a fail-forward system. So the scenarios, the story continues if you fail a scenario. So not like in many games like this, you need to do it again. I really wanted, because this is the most important part to feel the role-play element in it, that, okay, guys, we are having a really big trouble here. We have just this time left. And we know that if we fail, something happens and the story goes on. Of course, I don't want it to start to fall if you fail many scenarios, that then it would the difficulty level would rise. But it makes difference. You get not so much reputation with the factions you want to work with, but that will not fail the campaign for you, not at all. It just makes the story different. There is even one scenario where it's better to fail the scenario than succeed in it, but that's another story. That's a really weird one, like our Tulhu scenario. Yes, so it has been a huge process.
And you have done this for all the 36 scenarios.
Yeah, some of them took loads of more different versions. Some of them were much more, and maybe towards the end of the process, which was like many years, I think, but there is 5 levels in the game, and I think 4th level already was. I think I didn't have to do so many different versions anymore. I think I started to kind of breathe the mechanism much better, so I started to know also the timers quite well without so much testing. So those went into the final version much locked earlier. But of course, there is always loads of stuff coming up. So we have been having many test groups around the world, and we still changed quite many things after after getting the reports from them during the last 2 years.
And then this scenario map has these small symbols with alphabets, and each symbol means that when you get there, you draw an event card.
Story card.
Story
Each
card.
scenario has a deck of cards. So that makes the scenario much bigger than you first think when you look at it, because each of those little dots is a story card that has Petri Hiltunen's beautiful art that will show you something, explain some situation, show a picture, and then you can activate and doing some certain things like digging or something, succeeding a test. Then you can turn the card around, and then you can read what's
these
there.
story cards.
Yeah, but these are no story cards.
sorry.
There is their game has also, we have professions. Each hero can learn one profession, and this is actually much bigger importance in the game than you first think, because you find herbs, you find metal, you find different kind of let's say resources during the game, and you can then manufacture potions and scrolls and stuff like that, and they are much more cheaper to do that way than buy them, and you really need to buy those discardable resources during the game to be able to succeed in the scenarios. This is really important part. Like, is your group using loads of poison and runes in your items, or are you going other way around? You can always buy those goods also, but as being my whole role play game mastering has been with Warhammer Fantasy. So I'm quite tight with money, and I'm keeping players in quite like really in the gray area in moral. And
as you can see, we can ramble on about this for hours.
Yes.
But Dr. Kultima is over there giving us the eye. So
yeah,
let's move on to the Q&A part.
Okay, thank you, Max and Mike, for this amazing game and the rambling of it.
thank you.
Yes.
The rambling continues. Yeah.
I mean, there's tons of things in it already, seeing from the box. So let's just delve deeper with the questions. If there's any questions in the audience, just raise your hand. There's already one question here, so just please stand up and wait for the mic to come in.
Hi, thanks for the fantastic talk. So I'm not super familiar with these like packaged tabletop games. I dabble in D&D from time to time myself. And I'm asking this from purely sort of a curiosity standpoint, but in the age of Elder Scrolls and World of Warcraft, what is the itch that you're trying to scratch with these complex, deep storytelling, narrative-rich board games?
The cooperation. I must say this is not I say that while I have been playing now Baldur's Gate 3, maybe I'm not the only one who has been doing that lately. I'm missing the people around the table. This is such a big, huge thing. People around the table. This is kind of, it's healthy. It's really different. This will beat all the computer game experience any time, and that's the wonderful thing. And it's giving some free time to all the game masters in the world to play this campaign through. Well, maybe I didn't answer exactly what you asked, but
Cooperation, at least.
cooperation,
like playing with people.
absolutely. Yeah, the happiness. How much, like the test group reports, we have really beautiful ones. If you want to read from Board Game Geek, we have really good reports from the test groups, and they have been amazed how much this game creates in-game humor and stories between the players. Like, there is some guys can go to a bar and take the other ones with them, or freedom fighting in the streets, and doing really morally like really creating the story. Like, you have lots of freedom in the game, which is creating story, and we have been carefully building that. So that's what I think cooperation. That's really any time beating playing alone.
Thank you.
And maybe like now after pandemic, we're just really eager to also to see the other bodies and just to delve into
we
the
needed to
physical.
do loads of playtesting through TTS, like the tabletop simulator.
Yeah, yep, that's
Actually,
a good
in
tool.
some point, yes.
Exactly,
Yes.
it's good for also game jams.
Yeah.
Was there another question already here in the audience? Well, I have one. So let's look at like, I'm not a player of this kind of heavy board games that you kind of. There's a lot of pieces. There's a lot of things to learn. But I know that there's a huge player base for that. So do you have like numbers of the kind of the market of these type of games? Like, what is the size of the audience of Agemonia and others?
Well, yes, yeah. It needs a specific audience, yes, specific. But there is like tens of thousands of players around the world with these special, like easily over 100,000 people. It is the base of really playing these kind of games and are supporting the Kickstarter campaigns, are really active. So it is okay, but of course it's growing. It's for me, when I went to like board game industry 10 years ago, the big surprise was for me that it's just growing and growing. And I come back to the answer like I gave to you. It's really a big thing, the cooperative, like playing together, like really together, be in the same space.
So you're not just trying to, beat the others.
Yeah, because I was always thinking that, okay, that all the incredible digital content will like destroy us, but it's beautiful that these both can really flourish.
Yeah.
I would imagine that there's tens of millions of people in the world playing tabletop role-playing games. I would imagine that the overlap with a board game like this is pretty huge. So you can just, with your tabletop, with your role-playing gamer group, you can decide, okay, we're not going to play the next Dungeons & Dragons campaign, we're going to play this campaign now, and then go back to Dungeons & Dragons if you feel like it.
But we also, it's huge, but we have been doing loads of work that the setup is really quick. And of course, the box is big, but for one gaming session, you just don't need so much material, actually. You just take your heroes, tray out, map, read the instructions, and go. It's not so bad when you really play it. But of course, the starting,
You don't have to start
the edge of
painting
the
the
starting
characters.
is. We have also 3 tutorials that are really. There is exact notes like what you really do round by round to learn the whole thing. It really helps to learn the whole thing because suddenly in the end you have been playing already the campaign and now you learned all the rules.
Mike, I have a question to you specifically. Like you are known for your role-playing games and LARPs and all that kind of things. Like from your perspective, what is the development of that scene now? Like, is there a lot of things happening, and how does the Agemonia kind of places into those trends?
Interesting question. There's the tabletop role-playing game scene in Finland is flourishing. We have lots of these small self-published Samizdat style, like really artistic experimental games, and also this for Finland big budget mainstream games like the Finnish version of Dungeons & Dragons and some other more mainstream role-playing games, and of course Dungeons & Dragons and other international role-playing games are also doing pretty well and being played a lot in Finland. I feel like 5 years ago, maybe with the Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, with actual play podcasts and Critical Role and this the phenomenon of watching other people play, it really brought a new generation to role playing and revitalized Dungeons & Dragons, especially, which was already getting a little bit stale. I think now it's the time for diversification again, with lots of new interesting games being played all the time, all around the world. And I really believe that this is a part of that trend. People will want to see what kinds of role-playing experiences they can have with this one. And even though it is a board game, we've made it in such a way that you can actually immerse in the personality and worldview of your character and you have to make hard moral choices, and the other heroes in the group might have very different views, and then you're going to have a lot of role playing at the table when you have to make those decisions.
Yeah.
And we are not just totally out of any digital content. We have a huge application which has more than 14 hours of voiceovers and all kind of music. Each scenario has their like SFX music background. It has all the successes, fail forwards, all recorded, and you can roll the city there. You can collect your keywords. You can have loads of things in the app, but you don't need to use it. We wanted to have it so.
Is the trend of phygital or hybrid games like really big in this type of board games currently?
In these type of big ones, many of those games are already having all the cards in an app. But there is lots of players. I think we are then going a bit further away from the role play experience. So that's why also I wanted to have it, but that it's possible to play without. I love cards. I love to
the physical
read them.
Yeah, but the soundscape that it adds that's very immersive.
That's really incredible. Like Jussi Kärkkäinen from Ryhmäteatteri, and there is lots of voiceovers done by really great. Like the main narrator is Erik Versborg, is a Canadian guy, but there is lots of very famous Finnish actors from my theater connections also, like Martti Suosalo and my wife Leena Pöysti and Sanna Stellan and Sami Uotila. There is really beautiful voice like music work, and Jussi actually just gave out in Board Game Geek a huge report of his work like for this project.
If there's any questions in the audience, I can pick one from the audience, but I do have a question from the chat, and I guess Max, you already kind of answered to this. So there's a question. Seems that the real mechanical part of the game is in these scenarios. Will there be a skirmish version of this game where a player can just do the battles and skip the story? Is there anything like that?
Well, I'd answer this way. There is also built into the world, there is an arena. And I wanted to create this kind of a place where it's just about winning and losing and how much you win. You can win big prizes if you do good record, and you can go there always again and again. This you could play competitively, like again and again with different groups of people. And that would be a total skirmish thing. And I set the level of the high prize in each one is really tight. So and there is like the Jussi and Erik has done like incredible like ice hockey commentators guys who are commenting the arena battles all the time. If you want to use the app, but that's a totally skirmish part. Otherwise it's story heavy, the campaign.
Very last fast question. What was the time, the team size and the time of the development for this game now?
Years and years. Max can give a more detailed answer, I guess.
I think we have a team around 15 to 20 people, and it's international. We have people from England, Canada, America. But really the main core team is from Finland, which is of course nice. Petri Hiltunen, a Finnish illustrator, has done 1,000 ink drawings to this game.
Oh, wow.
And he is incredible. And
no
the other
need
guy,
for generative AI for that.
Damien
like
Mammolit is
he's a machine.
And then a Polish guy, Tomasz Jedrzejczyk, actually, who has worked with Red Lynx some years ago. He loved Finnish sauna and so on, but he has done all the main big illustrations and the heroes and the monsters. So.
Okay.
And the game box is huge. It's massive.
How many pieces altogether?
Like 15 million, maybe.
no, 11 kilos. That's a better.
11 kilos.
It's printed now, and it's in huge containers and being shipped to Europe and the US, and it's gonna arrive on our shores in January.
Yeah, backers are getting the game now in December. So we are really, really happy to provide the game now finally to the backers. We are 1 year late, but they have been the whole community has been really, because we have been informing how much better the box will be. Like quite many design add-ons were put there during the process.
Excellent. I mean, I want to take a try on it at some point. Maybe Mike, you can run a game for us here at Aalto.
Maybe we can.
And I think everybody can, if you want to, can people, if they want to,
Yeah, you
see
can
the
come and touch it
physical
on our
piece.
lunch break.
Yes.
So thank you, Max and Mike, for your rambling off the design. There's so many pieces and so many things to cover.